Hello everybody, Tyron the God 3 here, and welcome back to Dragon Ball Super Reviews. Today we'll be doing the review of the episode 47, SOS from the future, a black new enemy appears. Okay, so a lot of you all were informed that I was actually going to do a big rant about the Future Trunks arc based on some information that I had recently learned before the episode had made its debut. I think it was about 4 days before the episode actually made its debut. Or no, it actually happened when we got the preview for episode 47, when I learned that this was the Future Trunks that came from the Android Saga, and not a Future Trunks from an alternate timeline that's already taking place in our main timeline. Like everything, I visualized that this Trunks came from a timeline where everything happened exactly the same as our main timeline up until Black Goku appears, and then it deviates away from what's going on. That was my imagery of what happened, which would explain a lot of things, well, at least help explain a lot of things. However, I come to learn that it's from the Android Saga, which means it's continuing off everything that happened since the Android Saga ended approximately 8 years ago in that timeline, respectively, or 13 years ago according to this timeline, which is 13 years ahead of the main timeline. So, how do I feel about this episode? How do I feel about the big episode that brings back a very popular character that all of DBZ, including myself as fans, really love? How do I feel about the episode that takes references from a character that we all got introduced to at first and really loved the serious dark tones of the plot? I'm mixed. Now, from a lot of the reviews from more famous Dragon Ball reviewers like Quaman, Black and Fist, Geekdom, you name it, they all actually took a really positive swing at this episode. All of their reviews mostly are positive. There is no real flaws except for like a couple of conflicts using flashbacks and or tones. But even that, they are more relatively 95% positive about the entire episode. How do I feel about the episode? I'm going to be truthful. And a lot of people are pretty agitated at me for being truthful, or pretty upset with me about giving what they call harsh criticisms. Harsh criticisms on an anime is important. It's just as important as praising the anime, complimenting the anime, or even supporting the anime by buying various merchandise or manga or the anime itself. The reason of this such is because us as fans need to give just as much feedback as we receive as terms of content. This is so that the anime can grow within itself and develop into something that tells a great story. It was because of great criticisms and great get-togethers and talks and discussions and reviews, just like the one I'm doing right now in this video, that we got to get better sagas in terms of Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z was originally supposed to end after the Sand Saga, and then it was supposed to end after the Frieza Saga, and again after the Cell Saga. However, the Cell Saga, I think, is one of the best sagas in Dragon Ball Z, so I feel it was one of the best that was probably critiqued over, only to have advancements done to it to make it really great. Now, the entire thing about this whole dilemma of Dragon Ball Super had me thinking. With Black Goku, we don't know enough about him. Honestly, I think it's kind of weird to make Goku the villain as well as the hero of the series, because it kind of feels like they're running out of ideas for villains, so they just have to rehash Goku. But then something else appeared. The Supreme Kai that was happening in the opening. He's green and he has white hair. We're not really sure who he is because the series hasn't really revealed much about him. We're kind of too early into the saga to really make some big predicaments or speculations, but I do feel like he has an important role in this saga, or else he wouldn't have been in the opening in the first place. So, to get over the plot really fast, the plot basically begins really dark, even darker than that of the Android Saga, due to the fact that the entire city is destroyed with no humans whatsoever this time. This could probably be written off as either really lazy because they didn't want to animate or draw any other people suffering, or just really dark and desolate to the point where they wanted to make it so that this future was indeed destroyed. Because of this, Trunks, Mai, and Bulma are the only ones left, well, until Bulma ends up getting killed by Black Goku. Honestly, I really respect them for making this decision. Because of which, there is no Piccolo in this timeline, so the stakes are a lot higher in Trunks' timeline because the Dragon Balls here are inert. Earth never had the chance to get Dende as its guardian, and Piccolo was the one that was connected with Kami. And when he died, Kami died as well, which means death means a lot more here because you can't bring people back. Furthermore, things get even darker when Mai dies, but I don't think she's out for the count, only because the opening has shown her off too much, and she's even in the promotional artwork, so I doubt that she's finished. The next thing we go over is that Trunks has to go back into his original time. Well, he has to go back to the original timeline, our timeline, because he knows that there's warriors there that can actually help him fight off the threat. The reason that I had a conflict with this at first was because Trunks has no idea of the events that have gone on since he last left the timeline in the Android saga that took place. However, I was able to change my views upon this kind of quickly when I sort of divulged into the episode and realized that this is the only timeline that Trunks can travel back to where he actually knows the Z Fighters. If he went any further back or to another timeline, the Z Warriors would have no idea who he was in particular. They would know that he's Trunks, but they wouldn't know that he's Trunks specifically from a different timeline. So it would have been a little bit more confusing in order for him to go to any other timeline other than the one where people actually know who he is. So, with all of that being said, Trunks tries to travel back, but ends up running into Black Goku, and Black Goku basically states that he's going to die right here and there. Meanwhile, in the main timeline, we also see that Goku is having a lettuce-picking contest with Piccolo, and I actually really do like the funny, lighthearted moments in this episode, because Goku winds up, and he's actually able to teleport to Whis' planet now. He's actually able to instant transmission there. I don't know if it's that because he's gotten stronger since then or what, but he's able to do it, and Beerus was like, fine, we'll let you train, but you gotta bring something back. Thankfully, he already had lettuce in his hands from the lettuce-picking contest, which Beerus somehow managed to really like. Outside of all of this, we got to see that several other events happen. Whis explains that the Omni King is able to destroy all of the universes. Honestly, I thought that a lot of the present timeline stuff took way too much time and kind of ripped us out from the future apocalyptic plot that was going on. But at the exact same time, I guess they revealed this information for future reference later on in the series. So, regardless of which, after all of that said and done, that's basically all we get. And then Trunks is about to fight off against Black Goku and the episode ends right there. So, what do I think? Honestly, I think this is a really good episode. I love the music in this episode, and I love the visual changes. I love the fact that Future Trunks and Maya actually get eye catchers too. That's really cool. You can tell that they actually put a lot of work into this saga. And while I do have some questions, and there's some noticeable plot holes, and there's also some fan pandering, and a lot of this, like bringing back Future Trunks, is similar to bringing back Shadow the Hedgehog in the Sonic series, not because they really needed him, only because he's really popular. So I do have some conflicts here and there. However, I do see that they treated this saga with somewhat care. The animation was really good, except for in the moments where they were in the present timeline dealing with Whis and Beerus. But other than that, the animation was spot on. Everything about this episode, from the music, the presentation, the dark tones, and everything, was done really well. However, there's still some criticisms. Most noticeably, the largest plot hole in the entire episode. Mine. A lot of you all are probably going, Tyrone, maybe you're thinking way too hard into this, maybe you're overanalyzing it, or maybe you need to just sit down, shut up, and enjoy the saga so that Trunks can probably explain what happened. There's no amount of real explaining I think that they can do in order to get Trunks out of this one. The reason I say that is because Mai shouldn't exist in this timeline. Mai is exactly 53 years old as according to this timeline. She's also 53 in the actual Dragon Ball Z series because Bulma was 16 around the time the Emperor Pilaf saga happened. And Mai proves that she's 20, that Mai shows that she's about 41 in the time in which the Battle of Gods stuff happens. If you watch the movie Battle of Gods, Mai reveals that she's 41 and Bulma reveals that she's 38. The reason that this is important is because we know that Mai is exactly 3 years older than Bulma in this entire series, meaning that she's 52 in the Trunks' timeline, and that Bulma is about 50, no, she's 53 in the timeline, and Bulma's about 50. That means that Trunks is dating someone that's 53 years old? Regardless of which, not only that, why is Mai younger than Bulma? The Dragon Balls are inert in this timeline because Piccolo died. That means there's no way they could have made the wish. It seems to me like they ran out of ideas to give Trunks a female companion, so they used the best character they could think of. Someone who Trunks was already in a relationship with in the Battle of Gods timeline, or the main timeline, if you will, because, they just needed a quick female and they couldn't think of one fast enough, so they used one that they did in a running joke from Battle of Gods and Resurrection F. It seems to me it's a little desperate. They even call her Mai, so there's no mistaking it. This is the very Mai that is with them. The reason I also say that this is most likely fan pandering is because Emperor Pilaf and Shu are not present. Because Emperor Pilaf and Shu would more or less cramp the style of an otherwise relationship between future Trunks and Mai, which shouldn't canonically even exist in the first place, because Mai is 53 in this timeline. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Bulma looks younger too in this timeline, so who cares, right? No, I still care. I think Trunks' mom would have a little problem with Trunks dating somebody that's about 3 years older than her herself. It just doesn't seem right. And I don't think Trunks will be down for it. And no matter how many ways you can run around this, you can't deny that Mai doesn't belong here. It feels to me like they shoved Mai in here specifically because she would be a good female replica to knock off Trunks' already, popularness. But regardless of such, the episode was okay. The next episode is titled Hope Again, Trunks Wakes Up in the Present. So, I'll see y'all then, everybody. Tyrone, the God 3,